the Americanized version last week
Yeah,
was
you
pretty
give it.
good,
You
to be
give it a
fair.
go this week.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to episode 5. Is it episode 5?
Yeah, good. Oh, I've actually no idea. Don't even
Yeah,
know what it
I
is. It
think
could be
so. I think it's
five.
episode 5. TOSIG Talks, episode 5. It feels kind of strange saying that, but me and Ciaran were just saying we're having fun with it. We had 171 downloads
Boom, baby.
over the last 2 weeks. If you're listening to this, you probably would have noticed that we're a few weeks ahead. So when are we recording this? The 14th of April. This probably won't come out for another 2 weeks. Just so we're ahead, staying on top of everything. But yeah, like we said, we're enjoying it. It's kind of cool to schedule time for this, to write out a few things that we want to talk about. And again, it's just a way for us to learn and selfishly grow while helping other people. So it is kind of cool. And episode 5, I mean, we have a big one planned this week. Last week we talked about kind of how to just start. Just start is the main core topic of TOSIG. And this week we want to talk about kind of the mindset needed to be able to just start, and Ciaran is kind of well versed on all this stuff, so we're gonna let him take it away.
Yeah, no, cheers for that. Lovely little intro. Well done. I think. I think it's look. I think it's all well and good to be able to like tell people just start your own thing. Just go and do it. Start whatever you want, and then just leave people and let them run free. Whatever the fuck that means. So I think it was good last week that we were able to kind of show what it means to just start. And now hopefully people will have listened to that episode and maybe sparked a bit of curiosity within themselves, and they might be thinking now, okay, yeah, well, I would like to start to get better at something. I don't know what that is yet, but I think whatever journey you then go on, I think it's really cool if you're able to have like a few tools to be able to kind of succeed and go on that journey. So I think for me, one of the biggest things that on my own journey, and I'd love to know about your journey, what you think is kind of the one key takeaway about what you think has been great on your journey so far. But for me, the ability to get better at being self-aware and emotionally intelligent has really been kind of the core of kind of my journey so far, and I think it will continue to be that way. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like for me, it's self-awareness and emotional intelligence. But what do you think? Like for you, would you kind of be similar with that?
100%. No, 100%. Everything changed for me when I became kind of self-aware. That was literally going to be my first question to you, was like, was there a moment, like, was there a particular moment when you woke up? I
Mm-hmm.
used that, I think, last week about when I was journaling on the couch over New Year's when I
Mm-hmm.
was sick. Um, it was literally in that moment when I looked around and actually understood and seen things around me. It was a weird moment, and I haven't been able to go back to roaming around or just waltzing around through life. That moment just sparked everything for me, and again, that's where TOSIG started. That's where kind of all my ideas started. Was there a certain moment for you, or was it kind of just like a period over time where you say you were working with your coach and you developed the kind of the skill?
Yeah, it more came from that. I was talking to my coach, and kind of the first thing that he set out for me was to become and practice the skill of being self-aware, and because that's what it is, it's a skill. It's not something that we're born with. We're not. Well, I mean, some people are naturally able to do it better than others, but it's a skill, so you can work on it. And just kind of to start this podcast and to like set a kind of framework for why we're talking about what we're talking about. There is reason why I think being self-aware is really powerful. I'll give you two stats straight away at the start of this podcast, and this is going to kind of frame what I'm saying for the rest of the podcast. So yeah, look, 50% of men who kill themselves have no history of mental illness prior to killing themselves. So if we let that sink in a little bit, like we think of, we know that like in society, men killing themselves is one of the biggest problems that there is. And if 50% of all those suicides come from men who have no history of mental illness, that's scary. That's a scary thing to look at. Further than that, in Europe, the biggest killer of men under the age of 45 is themselves. Suicide is the biggest killer in men in Europe under the age of 45. So we talk about being self-aware, and not even emotionally intelligent, but self-aware, having an understanding of yourself and what's going on inside your brain is a skill that clearly is lacking in men and in young lads our age, that is causing these rapid increase and this influx of mental health difficulties and suicides in men. So this is part of the reason I just wanted to give you that, because this is part of the reason as to why I wanted to talk about this. Because look, if fucking 50% of the people that men that kill themselves have no history of it, then it's so hard to predict what's going to, like, the numbers in the future, you know? So, well, so that's the reason as to why I think that we need to kind of harness this ability to be self-aware and understand what's going on in our brains. Young people in Ireland struggle especially with this, and this is going back to it being a skill. So what is self-awareness? Well, self-awareness is the ability to look within yourself and understand what's going on inside your mind, understand how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. And then if you're able to do that, you're going to be able to make decisions, and much more educated decisions and informed decisions and better decisions for yourself and for your own life. You're also going to find that you're going to become much better with people, because if you have an understanding of yourself, you're definitely going to have a better understanding of people and how they work. So this is where I think, and I could be completely wrong. Again, I'm going to be completely humble in the fact that I don't know for certain if this is what is true, right? But I feel that the whole stigma that you and I talk about, that men find it hard to talk about their feelings, it comes from not practicing the skill. So being self-aware is a skill. So if you and I or whoever are just a, like, normal group of lads or whatever, and they don't really like talking about their feelings, they're never presented with the reflection inwards. So when it comes to when they actually have a period of their life that they're struggling and they need to work through something, they don't have the access to that skill that they can then work through their own problems. So if the less you do something, the worse you're going to be at it, which is just normal. The more bench presses I do in the gym means that I'm going to be able to bench press more weight or whatever, you know? So the more you do it, the more you're able to be good at it. So I think the ability to, and that's why these talks are so important. And like I say, not every deep conversation with your mate has to be this big emotional session where you all cry at the end. It can just be like, I'm struggling at the minute, or I don't really know why I'm feeling this way. Do you want to talk about it? We go for a coffee and we have a little laugh or something and we work through it, you know? So even the ability to start looking inwards is really important, because the more we do it, the more we're going to get better at it. And that's going to then help us because struggles are going to come in life, aren't they? Like, life's not going to be this like rose garden and easy and nice and flowery and stuff for the whole of our lives, you know? There are going to be challenges, but it's the ability to deal with those challenges and having the tools, or like being equipped with the tools to then solve those issues when they're presented. And being self-aware is one of those tools, and I think it's really important.
I love the way you think about it as a skill, because I completely agree with that. Um, like a skill, like when you really deep it, like what is a skill? It's something that you've practiced over and over and over to be able to do it at a competent level. Um, and I think when you say that, let's say young lads don't talk in general, like regardless of if it's about their feelings or anything, a lot of the time it's not. We don't really have conversations. We just slag someone off or talk about the football, or like, you know, it's not
Yeah,
really. We're not
yeah.
really having conversations. I feel like girls are a little more emotional, a little more. They can normally talk and they can normally have conversations because they've probably been allowed to do that. You know,
Yeah.
where you say there's the stigma around men who don't speak, and it's like this constant battle of like, people don't speak because no one else speaks. So that's really where, you know, people have to step in. Some people have to step in and, you know, put their hand out to get it chopped off, in a sense. Like, you know, we're putting ourselves out there talking about this, like, and there's going to be thousands of lads who will say, no, what are they doing? What are they talking about? Like, I'm fine. I'm okay. I don't have any issues or whatever. And then again, when it gets to a point where, like, their friend goes and does something terrible,
Yeah.
or someone in their family, or like, because realistically, I we had to go to a talk there, in class, in school, with the team about
Mm-hmm.
like mental illness and anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And like, he was talking about suicide, and like, everyone has been affected by it in some sense. Everyone, and it's terrible. And I think, like I said, some people need to step up and be able to take the hate and the criticism, for others to feel okay talking about it. And I know, like, when I started, let's say, talking about this, like, I remember I posted a video. I don't know if you've seen this. I posted a video ages ago. It was probably like April last year, when like I was going to see a counselor over in the
Mm-hmm.
last place. And I really, it was more like I was just go and have a chat with her,
Mm-hmm.
at this stage, because I felt pretty good. And I think I made a video about going to therapy, and it got a lot of views, and it got a lot of like comments, and a lot of shares and stuff. And like, for like, the account back then wasn't very big, but there were still people like that you wouldn't really expect that would share it, or that would comment, or that would even send me a DM. And like, because DM is personal. Like, I'm not gonna go tell everyone like, oh, this fella sent me a DM. Look at, like, because that's just not the whole. That's just the whole point. The whole point of me posting and talking about that is that so people can actually come and say, yeah, I've had this issue, or I'm doing this, or whatever, and maybe I can help with them, or they can help with me. And I remember it was a tough, like, looking back now, it was very tough to just put out on social media, like, yeah, I'm going to see a therapist. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I look back now, I'm like, fucking hell, like, in the moment I didn't really think much of it. And at the same time, I didn't think much of it because it wasn't that big of a deal. But people think of it as such a massive deal,
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you talk about your coach a lot. I have a coach too. I went to therapy. Like, I think everyone should do it.
Yeah.
Realistically, if you have an issue or not, I think everyone should do it, because again, you may not think you have a mental illness, like a terrible mental illness, but there might be that one thing that pushes you over the edge. And
Mm-hmm.
like you say, you don't know how to deal with it because you've never been exposed to it.
Yeah. Look, I think the brain is a muscle, and sometimes people forget that. And like my biceps and my quads and stuff, I go to the gym for them. So why wouldn't I work on it? It's it's something that is like, I think there's a bit of a misconception that I think people, and this is where problems arise, is people often feel as if they can just continue to shove everything under the carpet, and all their problems they can just shove under the carpet. But
Mm.
unfortunately, I've never met anyone, well, maybe I will in the future, but I don't think I will. I've never met anyone that has been able to keep everything and all their issues and problems under the carpet for their entire life. Your problems are going to come out at one stage or another throughout your life. They will. They never. You're gonna have to deal with stuff eventually, and it's a bit naive to think that you can just shove things to the back of your brain and you're never gonna have to deal with them, because you will. And the earlier that you open up that carpet, the less problems that are going to be underneath it. So if we can learn from the stuff that we've already put under the carpet in our, however, it took me. So I must have been 17 or 18 when I started going to my coach, and I'm now nearly 22 in July. So
Mm.
however many years that is, but it took me 17 years worth of kind of maybe feeling as if I couldn't talk about my feelings to actually then go and do it. So all the stuff that I had worked through
Mm.
then has now allowed me to, for the future, be better equipped for the problems that arise for the rest of my life. You're never going to be able to continue to sweep stuff under the carpet. It's a ticking time bomb. And I think it's better for us to realize that earlier, because if that moment of realization comes when we're 45 or 50, we're going to have a lot of shit to deal with, you're like, you're going to be
Mm.
fucked. And
Yeah.
that's why we see that men's mental health being just declining and so rapidly, is because most people, and this is the majority of people, will go 45 or 50 years of their life never trying to work on that sort of stuff. And when it comes out, when there's 45 or 50 years of problems under the carpet they have to deal with, that's a lot, and that's why most men, 50% of men or the biggest killer in Europe in men is under 45 is suicide, because that's they feel as if that's the only option that they can go with. So I think, yeah, look, it's an issue, and I think people sometimes overlook the amount of power that is within whatever the 6 inches between ears. It's such this. It's a massive, massive tool, and I think if you're able to harness that, not only will it set you up to live a happy life, but it'll also then go and you'll be able to accomplish and achieve everything that we're talking about in this podcast. Go and achieving greatness, or whatever you deem greatness to be. Go and chasing your aspirations and your dreams. You can use it as a tool. You need to. I think it's why live a life of 85 or 90 years and not try and be the best version of yourself that you can be. I think there are, and look, that's easier said than done. Some people are just like chemical imbalances in the brain, depression, all these mental illnesses. Some of them are genetic, some of them are learned. So I'm not saying that every single mental illness that you may ever encounter is easy to get over by just one counseling session. But if you're looking just to better yourself and be a better person, then if you can harness your brain and the powers within, I think you're setting yourself up for success. So yeah, look, I think the ability to harness the powers within your brain are really important, because the stuff that goes on in your brain leads to the outcome of your life, right? And there's this kind of quote or saying that I came across a few years back, and it's by Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, which I've probably then butchered his name. But anyway, he says, and this is a cliche or whatever you can call it off, but there's truth in it. It says, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny, right? So, okay, let's call off the initial cliche cringiness of the quote, and we're all fairy tale philosophers here. But if you actually think about it, it's true. Because whatever you're thinking, you're going to end up saying, isn't it? Like that's just how, whatever you're thinking, you're going to end up saying. Whatever you're feeling and thinking, that's going to become your words. You're going to start saying that stuff. When you start saying the stuff over and over again, you're going to start acting on those words. So they become your actions. Then those actions over a long period of time, if it's continuous actions, they will become your habits, and then your character and your beliefs, right? So everything that you think of within, like everything in whatever way you think, whatever you think of, they're going to become your actions and your habits and your character. So even though you might not think that thinking this one thing might be damaging or whatever, you just need to be cautious. And this is where I would then segue into self-talk, because previously I would have had a bit of negative self-talk about myself. And potentially I can now link back the amount of times that I was having, say in tennis, right? I relate a lot of my stuff to tennis because that's just how I've experienced life so far, because my life has been surrounded by tennis and sports. But say I miss a forehand, or say I miss a serve, or say I lose a match, and I just say to myself, and I just casually throw it, it's just a throwaway comment being like, I'm shit, or that was shit today, my forehand is shit, whatever. If that same thing happens then the next day and I say the same thing, and that happens over and over and over again, I'm just going to start believing it. And then I'm going to actually believe that my forehand is shit. So the more that we think something and talk about it and like bring it into reality, the more it's going to affect you. So I think the ability to have positive self-talk is really, really important. And I know that can be hard, but I think it's really important to, as much as possible, just don't be hard on yourself, be as positive as you can, and in whatever way, because I think no matter the outcome, I think I think all our main priorities should be having a healthy mind first, and everything in life after that comes. I think we need to a lot of people need to organize that priority, in that you need to be sane, like you do, and everything in life after that is a bit of a blessing, isn't it?
I completely agree. I actually noticed that probably when I was home. I noticed that so many people just talk negatively to themselves.
Well, it's an
And
Irish thing,
I
isn't it?
wouldn't, I think so, yeah, I think so. I wouldn't have been someone who, like, because like not trying to be a big man here, but like because I knew I was like quite good at football, like back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
I there was probably self confidence within myself,
Mm-hmm.
and if I missed a shot, it was never like, oh, I'm terrible, like I'm the worst player. And I've noticed that since I've started coaching and stuff, like kids would speak quite negatively to themselves. You know, they miss a shot and they start crying. And it's the end of
Mm-hmm.
the world because they missed their shot. Um, and yeah, a lot of people talk negatively to themselves, and it's like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like I forgot my shoes. I'm so stupid. It's like
Mm-hmm.
repetitively saying that to yourself over and over and over is gonna ruin you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a limit though. Like I don't think I think we might have spoken about this quote um last week, the Hormozy thing, where there's no point looking in the mirror
Yeah.
and telling yourself that you're the best because you need to have the stack of undeniable proof.
Yeah.
Just telling yourself I'm beautiful, I'm the best, and manifesting and doing nothing, like, I mean, that's not going to do anything for you either. That's not going to do anything for your mental health, because telling yourself that you're beautiful and you're the best footballer of all time and my forehand is great in a tennis match, but then you go into the tennis match and
Mm-hmm.
make a balls of it, like it's gonna mess with your head. So I think there needs to be a defined line of, you know, positive self talk, as in, you know, telling yourself things that aren't true, but also maybe cutting out the negative self talk that isn't true either. You know, like you said, you miss one forehand. Your forehand isn't shit. It's just that one, tennis shot was shit. And I think, bringing this back to self awareness, like if you're able to like disassociate that one action from you, like we talked about your identity, like
Mm-hmm.
how, I identified as a footballer, you identified as a tennis player for our whole lives. But when we kind of woke up and realized like we had to disassociate ourselves from that kind of reality and that identity, I think if we can disassociate ourselves from the action, let's say my forehand is shit compared to that singular forehand shot was shit,
Mm-hmm.
and that is probably the challenge, because how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you, because it's learned, again, it's learned, and I think that might be an interesting topic to hear your opinion on, because like you can do all the work, you can do all the reading, you can do all the journaling, meditating, but like, is there a point where it kind of all clicks, where, yeah, I don't know, the negative self-talk doesn't really affect you, you know? I don't know if there's a point, or if there was a point where maybe you stopped the negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a great point. And I think if people are able to do that, like you say, disassociate one particular outcome with their identity, I honestly think that's one of the keys to life. And I think that's kind of the higher end of kind of a coaching journey, is not relating an outcome to your identity, one singular outcome. I think that's really powerful. Um, I think it's hard because for me anyway with tennis, it's because like, it's because of care. It comes from a place where you care. Like I care about this stuff. That's why I'm feeling all these emotions. Like it's why I feel these negative emotions. It's because I care so much. It's because I love the sport. It's because I'm buying into what I want to do. But I think there's only so much that you can I think when you care too much, I think that's a negative thing. I think when you're over invested into something, that's a negative thing, and when it starts to hurt your identity, I think that is as a dangerous thing, and that's something that I needed to get away from quickly when I was younger. Was trying to disassociate my identity with being a tennis player. I think it's the whole it's I think, to be honest, it's a tennis mindset. I think in tennis, and I don't know about football, but in tennis, it can be quite a toxic sport, and a lot of people tie their identities with their results, and hence this is where the whole like self-talk comes from, and this is where people start believing things about themselves, is when they succeed they feel great, but when they fail they feel awful and terrible and they're the worst person ever in the world. And I think this also comes back to, never going to fix internal issues from external accomplishments or victories. And this is, and I'll speak more broadly on this, like if you feel negatively about yourself and you talk negatively about yourself because, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe you're 5 kg overweight and you need to lose weight or something like that, the issues that you have prior to losing all that weight are still going to be there when you lose that weight. I know people tie external accomplishments to being like, that's going to fix how I feel in my head. I know that's how I'm going to get better, is because I'm going to lose this weight, or I'm going to win this tournament, or I'm going to try and get with this girl, and that'll be the result of my happiness. That's not going to work. That's not how life works. The baggage that you bring into a problem or whatever are still going to be there at the end. You're going to have to deal with that baggage eventually. Like I say, you can't always keep that stuff under the rug. And I think, yeah, the ability to deal with those internal issues it's paramount to your health and kind of the success that you have in your life. So yeah, I think being able to, and so this is to go full circle again. I think the positive self-talk is where this starts. I think there can't be any, you have to meet positive self-talk with action. Like you say, we need that stack of evidence. So yeah, we can absolutely say in the mirror, I think I'm great. I think I'm strong enough. I think I'm going to do all this, whatever. But that has to be then met with action. The action is where it actually starts forming the belief. You can say the words to try and motivate yourself. And I think you can use the words to get yourself out of bed or whatever and start to feel good about yourself and to motivate yourself potentially to a certain point. But the action is where it actually happens. The action is where our beliefs start being formed. So if there's, and this is where I think the problem lies, is people are saying the words, but they're not taking action. You'll only ever see results, and you'll only ever start feeling better about yourself if you start taking action. And that could be action in whatever. But for the most part, that action needs to be within their own mind.
Yeah, to jump in there, I want to get your opinion on pain, because I
Okay.
think when we talk about action, like the whole aim of TOSIG is to get people to start, and whatever it is you want to do, like it's such a broad statement, just start, but like it can literally be applied to everything that you do. And in class there the other week, we were learning about injuries. It's like an injury prevention class, and we were talking about like bone breaks. And a lot of the time when someone will break their bone, let's say they break their, I don't know, tibia and or fibula or wherever, and they'll be lying on the ground and they'll be like dazed, but they won't actually feel the pain of their leg until they look at it. And then they'll be like, oh my God, my leg is broken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I have this idea that if the pain is not sufficient enough, you won't make a change. So, and I think, again, we always quote Mr. Williamson, but like, if I think he talked about, if the pain is not enough, you'll stay the same. And if it's great enough, you'll make a change.
Yep.
So what's your opinion on pain, and have you used kind of the pain of the, maybe this negative self-talk and the doubting yourself to fuel the stuff that has come? Because I think a lot of people and a lot of the champions in the world will use pain for fuel.
Yep.
So what's your opinion on pain, and how can people use pain to make a change?
Yeah, yeah. I
Or is it
think
even necessary?
I think so. I think, well, firstly, I think the quote that you were getting at, I completely agree. I think sometimes the worst position to be in, and this isn't just in physical pain. This could be like being in a rut in your life or whatever, in your mid-20s, and not being able to do much. Sometimes the worst thing for a person is for the pain metric not to be so high that we like consciously actually like need to take action and change. If let's go into relation. Let's put this in the context of a relationship, right? I If you or I or anyone is in a relationship with somebody and the relationship isn't that great, and I've been in the relationship for 6 years and it's just kind of comfortable, and I know it's not really great, I'm not really getting anything out of it, that other person's not really getting anything out of it, like we're both kind of just mindlessly going through life, and I know I probably could be happier by myself or with someone else or something like that, but I don't do it. I'm actually doing myself more harm potentially than if that person was to cheat on me. Because if that person was to cheat on me, I would just get out of the relationship. And then I'd start my
You
journey
have
on
a
getting
reason.
better.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, absolutely. So sometimes the pain metric actually has to get so high that we consciously, it comes to the forefront of our brain being like, oh, fuck, actually, I need to actually get out of here and make a change. Sometimes it's harder to be in the position where it's like, it's not that bad, but it's actually not great either. And I could be a lot better off, because then there's no real motivation. Sometimes there's no motivation to get out. And I think need to, yeah, I think absolutely. So I think, yeah, going back, that's kind of where sometimes I think people fall victim to in society, is just going mindlessly through life and the pain not being that hard. So I think that's a really dangerous place to be in. But I think then is where we need to look at our priorities and what we want to achieve, and knowing that nothing worth achieving is going to come within that comfort zone, or in that zone where it's kind of shit, but it's not really shit enough. You're not going to achieve anything in that zone. And it's just not a life worth living in that zone. However uncomfortable it might be to get out of that zone, nothing worth achieving is in that zone. Now, to go on to whether I think pain is something that can motivate you, yeah, absolutely, I think it can, because like everything, I do think it depends on how much you let it affect you. So if the pain of a previous loss or a failure is going to motivate you to work really hard so that that never happens again, and you can then try and be better than you've ever been before to avoid feeling that feeling ever again, I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes people associate pain with being bad. I don't think I don't think pain is necessarily a bad thing. Now, I do think it's a bad thing if that motivating factor, like say from our failure, then leaks into our identity. So I feel like if failure, the motivating factor from, say, I have, say I'm in a relationship, but I work really effortlessly and tirelessly to, I'm really motivated to keep in that relationship by, like, that makes me work really hard because if I don't go to the gym enough, she's going to leave me. I think that's really dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So I think it depends what pain you're talking about. If you can use it in a healthy way, I think it could be beneficial. But if you're using the pain of a potential failure, like my girlfriend's going to leave me if I don't go to the gym enough, then I think that's dangerous. And that's what I mean by that is when that leaks into our identity. So it depends if you relate that pain to your identity, I kind of feel like. But if you can, again, disassociate that pain with your identity, then I think it can be used in a healthy fashion.
Yeah, you mentioned there like a potential failure. Like I think that's where like potential failure is often the reason why people don't start. They're scared of they're scared of failure. They're scared of people's opinions if they fail. And it's important to preface like if or potential, like it might not fail. You might not fail, you know. And I think like what would you do if you knew you were not going to fail? Would you go write that book? Would you go become a jockey? Would you go, travel the world on your own? What would you do if you couldn't fail? If you knew you couldn't fail? I think a lot of people are scared of, you know, other people's opinions of them failing. And I think, you know, when you change the whole idea of failure, like failure again is like a lesson. And I personally think that like failure is necessary in achieving anything. And I think the pain of the failure is also kind of necessary
Mm-hmm.
because, again, like you said, it shows that you care. You know, if you really want to achieve something and you put your heart and soul and 100% effort into it and it fails, I think people will just be like, okay, well, let's just go back to the day job. But realistically, if you've given your absolute all to achieve this one thing, you've probably learned so much along that way that that failure probably shouldn't be characterized as a failure because of all the stuff that you learned. Yes, maybe the outcome was a failure, but if that journey that you went on and if that continuous, day after day, month after month, and if you look back after that failure and see like, well, I actually grew as a person, or I was able to, learn this new skill, or speak to people more freely. Like, in that sense, you mightn't actually see the failure as a serious failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like I said, I think pain is a catalyst for growth. Like, pain is the necessary requirement for you to go, I actually need to make a change here. Because, like we said, if the stimulus isn't strong enough, if the pain isn't strong enough, you're probably not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, the pain of staying the same was was terrible. Like, want to be, I didn't want to be that person who just kind of sat in, or again, bringing it back, I didn't want to be that guy in 20, 30, 40 years time that said, I could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the main reasons why I left Pomarnic, was because I wanted to I wanted to try it. If I failed, I could come back to Pomarnic, but I didn't, and I kept striving on, and I got to wherever I got to. But I think when you change your mindset on failure, and when you can become aware of how the failure impacts your life in terms of how much you've learned across that period of time, like, that's when everything changes.
No, I 100% agree with that. And that's kind of, to be honest, the exact mindset that I had to take when I wanted to start my journey to try and I'm not talking like personal journey, but like goal of achieving a scholarship to America. That's the exact mindset that I had to take, because I think I talked about it in my episode last time. Like, at the start of my process of going to America, my motivating factor and my driving factor was a fear of what happens if I fail. Like, I have to work really, really hard, because if I fail, then I'm going to have to answer the questions that are within, and I don't want to have to answer. I don't want to have to believe that I am a failure. But the mindset then changed to exactly what you're talking about, in that even after 2 years of working, or 3 years of working hard to try and get a scholarship to America, if I didn't sign that paper and if I didn't come over here, I was not going to deem that a failure, because I was going to look back at the 3 years of work that I'd done and saw that I had changed completely as a person. I had clearly, obviously, gotten better at tennis to a certain degree, and then I was geared with the tools of for life from a personal aspect. Because again, there's going to be life after tennis, there's going to be life after football, there's going to be life after a 4-year degree in America. So for me, the way I see it now is it's the tools that I'm gathering from when I started this journey in fourth year in secondary school to when I graduate in May of next year. All the life lessons that I'm learning right now, it's all about the journey. It's all about the stuff that I'm gathering now for the rest of my life. So again, it wouldn't have been a failure had I not come to America, because I would have learned so much about myself in that short amount of time. And I think, yeah, that's another good point, is reframing what failure is really important. And I think that can allow people to just go after their journeys, go after the things that they want to do, go after the things that they want to achieve, their wildest dreams, their things that they don't even think that they're capable of. Because I mean, yeah, you shoot for the moon, and if you fail, you're amongst the stars. That's saying, like even if you fail when you shoot for your highest dream, probably you're gonna have opportunities that are presented to you that you never even thought would be presented in the first place. So I think that ability to like face failure, or like look at failure in the face and be like, oh, no matter what happens, I'm not scared of this, because even if I try and fail, I'll still be better than I was at the start of this journey. And I think that's really important. I think
I honestly don't think people understand or know like the extent of what they're capable of doing.
no one does. No.
Like I think like maybe I'm just a bit lula, but like I honestly think anyone is capable of anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
yes, of course, like I'm probably not going to get to the NBA. You know what I mean? But like in terms of like mental strength, I honestly think we can just identity shift into the person that we want to become and be that person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I looked at a stat there, like the likelihood of you being born is 1 in 400 trillion. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so do you really think that like you're just meant to be like every single other person on this planet? Like, do you really think that you're just another number? Like,
Mm.
everyone is so unique. Everyone has their own talents and their own skills and their own obviously experiences and things that they've learned from. So like, I don't think people really know that. I don't think they can truly grasp like the opportunities that there are. Like again,
Mm-hmm.
like we're fortunate enough to have a laptop and get a microphone, and now we're just
Yeah.
doing a podcast. I think people are scared of taking that first step. Like, and but whatever it is you want to do, like again, like it's we talk about it a lot, but you have to just start, and to just start, you need to develop the mindset
Mm-hmm.
on being able to do that. And I think when you really look at yourself, you just have to look at yourself and you say, am I the person that I want to become? Like, am I proud of myself? And if the answers are no, like you just need to keep asking yourself, why? And I think that can be a challenging experience for people because no one really looks within themselves, because
Mm-hmm.
it's scary. I talked about how the journaling for 3 days, like, was just constantly, why am I unhappy? Why am I this? Why am I that? And that continuous, like, questioning of myself just, like, it didn't give me the answers. It gave me, like, the areas that I knew I needed to work on and the things that I
Yeah.
wanted to work on. And again, day by day, you just tick them off. You just work on them. So I think, like I said, I don't think people truly grasp that they are so unique in this world that they can literally do anything that they want to.
Yeah.
And like again, why would you want to be on the deathbed and say like, "Fuck, I should have done that"?
Yeah.
Just
No,
fucking do it. Like,
100%. That's a great point that you've made, and I'm glad you actually said that there, because I have this in my notes and I want to talk about it, and I didn't know how I was going to segue back into it, but you've said something now that
do
I
you know
can
what,
relate
man?
to.
I feel like we obviously can see these notes. Yeah, for anyone that's listening, we have a few notes, but we don't write out the
No,
script. We just have a few
no.
notes that we take down.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
oftentimes when we're in the middle of these conversations, you say something that I'm about to say next, and then I have to
Yeah,
think about something else. And
yeah,
then I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
happening for you as well.
No,
Shows we're just
100%.
becoming one.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And sure, yeah, so we're all fucked now when we get to episode 150 and we've nothing to talk about. But
Uh,
I think that I think the ability to ask why. I think I want to go into that a little bit, because I think that's so important, and that's going back to the self-awareness thing, is that, and this is, so I know we were talking at the start about becoming more self-aware, but I think it'd be a little bit stupid of me not to talk about, well, how did I go about becoming more self-aware? Because it's all well and good me and you talking about being like, okay, to go and start your journey you have to be self-aware, and say nothing more. Well, okay, well, what the for anyone that doesn't know self-awareness, what the fuck, what am I supposed to do? So for me on
mhm.
my journey, in order to build self-awareness, it was exactly that. It was asking why. To anything and everything, ask why. Be curious and understand, and through that you will begin to understand yourself better. So at the very start, my coach, at the like basically the first few sessions we did, he challenged me, and we used to sit down once a week and talk. And this is when I was back home in Ireland, and we'd sit down once a week, and I would come to him with a journal full of things that I had noticed about how I felt throughout the week. And then at each session we talk about them, and he wouldn't say anything. I would just talk about them, and he would ask me questions to then obviously provoke learning. But what that does is, if you and me, Darragh, have a scrap, and I get really angry, and
Smack you around.
yeah, we have a scrap or whatever, and I get really angry, or I miss the bus and I start crying, or I fail an exam and I get really angry at my professor for failing me. Ask yourself, why did I just get annoyed there? Why did I react in the way that I did when me and Darragh had a fight? Or why did I react when I failed an exam? Ask yourself, what's going on within my brain that is making me feel angry when me and Darragh or me and someone had a fight? Why am I feeling that way? What's making me feel this way? Is it anger, or is it that actually Darragh hasn't done the washing up in 3 weeks and the dishes are building up at the sink, and actually that's why I'm angry, and this is just a build up of anger that I'm just unloading on him now because this is when we're having a scrap about it, you know? Ask yourself, why am I actually feeling? And as you do that, as you in anything that evokes an emotion within yourself, when you ask yourself why, like, how do I feel in this moment, and why am I feeling this feeling in this moment, you're going to start to understand yourself so much more. And understanding your emotions is the most powerful tool that we can have, you know? And this is where people our age are just so bad at it. Like, anybody I go to my age or whatever, the majority of the time when I say, "Hey, how are you?" What's the response that you get? Grand, good, fine. It's
Good,
one word
good.
answers,
Yeah.
you know? It's good, grand, fine, not bad, all of this. And maybe that's an Irish thing, I don't know. But the more, again, like I say, the more we give one word answers to how are you or how are you feeling, the more we're hindering ourselves from exploring our emotions inside. I'm not saying when I ask Darragh how he is, I want him to give me the, oh, well, I'm a little bit upset now today because the wind was really windy and then the sun was really sunny and I feel this, and I feel this, and I feel this, you know? Yeah. But have the ability to go into more depth about how you feel, and understanding how you feel is really important. And I think that's one thing that's really, really, like, it's not practice, and it's not worked on with lads our age, I don't think.
Oh, 100%. I think, again, when I first talked about the journaling and like meditation, like, people were always like, "What? Like, what are you doing? Like, surely meditation doesn't work." Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, surely just sitting thinking to yourself doesn't help you get better. And like, I think we talked about this last week. It was like, after one session is not going to make you a fucking monk. Do you know what I mean? It's it's like the continuous. Like, I feel like the journaling, especially, like, it's like a continuous why, like, questioning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're writing on your thoughts for the day. Like, I think there was a period where I went probably like 60 days maybe of every night before I went to sleep, just writing down like what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, and maybe a few other things, just general thoughts throughout the day. And I think it was that self reflection of every single day that I was able to like look inward and be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so maybe I failed the test. My professor is such a whatever, he failed me. And then it's like, but he didn't take the test. I took the
Mm-hmm.
test. So why did I fail the test? Oh, because I didn't study for the test. Or why did I get injured? Because,
Yeah, I
oh,
love
I
that.
didn't strengthen my hamstrings. I didn't sprint over the summer. So then when I came to sprint in a game, it just ripped. So it was like that constant why. And I think definitely Like for me, meditation was like a woo woo thing that I had no knowledge of. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
want to do it, and then I just kind of got a 10-minute one on YouTube. You can just find them 10-minute fucking meditation, and I listened to them literally every night. And honestly, it was I went to that stage where I was like 2 months, just both of them journal meditation. It was the
Mm-hmm.
best sleep I've ever had in my life. It was bed at 11, up at 7, like boom, not like the best sleep ever. And again, like I'm out with a habit now of doing it every night. I probably do it like maybe 3 or 4 times a week. But I promise you, like if you struggle with your sleep, just like sit there with that shit in, and you're just like thinking. And a lot of the time, maybe it's a case where people think too much, and maybe it's probably not the best idea to do it just before you go to sleep. And I think maybe that's why it's personal, like depending on who you are, and I think everything can be individualized. But definitely, when I went through that stage where I was journaling and meditating every day, it was like a constant why. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? Okay, I done this yesterday. Let's try to do this today. That's better today. And that was the one of the most productive times ever. That was one of the times where I changed the most as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably would attribute it to obviously the coaching and the counseling, but on the personal side, the journal and the meditating were transformational for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I definitely look, and I think with the journaling and the meditation, we're able to, yeah, again, I'll sing this till I can't no more. Like understanding our emotions is so important, and like our emotions are data. It's information. Like, well, let's go to the very very base. Why do we have emotions in the first place? Why do we have them? Well, they tell us things about ourselves. They tell us things about how we feel in certain situations. So it's information. It's data. So if we understand that data and we understand those feelings, we can then make decisions based off that. So, firstly, the most important thing is to understand how you feel and what those emotions mean and why you're feeling them. And then you can start making decisions, and then you can start going being courageous and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, 100%. I do think meditation can be hard for like at the start. I do, because a lot of people our age are constantly nowadays just stimulated. They're constantly stimulating their brains.
Yeah,
It's like it's so hard to just cut off everything because, and for the most part, unfortunately, and this has what has led to the massive decline in everyone's mental health in the last 20 years is that we're constantly stimulating our brains so that we don't have to then be one with ourselves and answer the questions that we might be ruminating or might be thinking about that we never really want to have to answer. Like I say, we're gonna have to answer those questions once in our, like at one time in our life, so we might as well just do it earlier. But I think, yeah, so the more and more we scroll on Instagram and TikTok, or the more we have our headphones plugged in all the time, or the more just fucking stuff that we feed our brain, the less we're challenging our brain to understand itself and then also deal with the stuff that's going on and process the stuff that we're going on. So when we sit down and meditate for the first time, firstly, our focus is going to be fucked. We're not going to be able to focus for more than probably 25 seconds at a time. Um, and so it's going to be really hard. But if you can get good at meditating and good at like coming into the present moment and then understanding how you feel, I know that sounds like a load of Yoda stuff, but like honestly, it's so powerful because when you do it, again, understanding your emotions is so powerful. And I don't know what you'd feel about this, Darragh, but I feel like if we can, like, to challenge people this week, and if anyone is still listening, I feel like what I'd love to do is challenge people for what if they go on a weekly walk or go on a walk or anything that you usually have your headphones plugged in for, going to the gym, going on a walk, doing the washing up, doing your laundry or whatever. For the time that you usually are stimulating your brain in actions that don't really need to be stimulated for, don't plug in the headphones. Don't plug in the AirPods and just be with your thoughts for 10, 20 minutes and just see where your mind goes. And just again, that's when you can start asking yourself, why did I think about that? Or why am I feeling this? Or whatever. I think to kickstart that. Like, you don't need to lie on your bed or sit down in your chair and do a meditation straight away. That can be the second step. The first step might just be going on your daily walk and not putting the headphones in, and then you're just with your thoughts. And I think then you're just going to become more like, just over time, if you do it consistently, you'll be able to become more familiar with how you're feeling and what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, you know?
Yeah, I think it'd be an amazing challenge, and it's something that I'll definitely do as well. Um, I there was probably 2 weeks ago. I was like making sure that any time that I ate, I didn't turn the telly on,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to, like, see, it's better for your digestion and things like that. But I've fallen back into the habit of just whacking the video on just when I'm having my
iPad
dinner.
kid.
Probably, and
Yeah.
that's just the way everyone is now, you know.
Yeah, of
But
course.
like, I would be up early before kind of the lads in the gaff, and so I wouldn't have the telly on full whack in the morning. So definitely, challenge this week will be, for me anyway. My one task will be, when I'm eating, just sit there, and just think about things. And I think, again, it'll give yourself time to think and be creative, because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's in the silence and the times where I'm thinking is where, like, the best ideas come from. That's where TOSIG came from. That's where probably the podcast came from. That's where a lot of my fucking crazy ideas that are inside my brain come from, is sitting in that silence and being able to think. No
Mm-hmm.
one thinks anymore. It's
Yep.
just boom, 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 boom. And I think, yeah, it'll definitely be a good challenge. I feel like we need to look at it, because, again, we're going to be doing this challenge this week, and they're
Yep.
not going to see this for another 3 weeks or 2 weeks,
Oh, fuck
whatever.
yeah,
So
true, yeah.
we might need to chat about it, or just upload this one straight away. But yeah, I think definitely. I think we talked about how we wanted to do these Just Start challenges, and I think there's literally no better place to start. It's such a simple task,
Mm-hmm.
to not do something that you're so used to doing. Like you
Yep.
said, go for your daily walk without your earphones. Like, it's so easy to do that. And yeah, hopefully there's like maybe 3 people that do it, and then just DM us and tell us
Yeah.
their results.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. As we wrap this up, I mean, there's no better place to finish than kind of maybe just summarizing what, like, key takeaways that people have hopefully taken away from this podcast is. And for me, and you can add in or agree or disagree, for me, the ability to harness your mind is so, so important, and you're never going to truly succeed at something that you want to achieve without doing that in the first place. To do that, step one, becoming more self-aware and understanding your emotions and your feelings, and then you can make decisions based off those emotions and feelings. Step two, the mindset shift, whether that be, and mindset shift is a massive broad umbrella, but that can look at, like we've talked about today, potentially using pain as a motivator or not using pain as a motivator, depending on the person that you are, or shifting into the identity that of someone that has already succeeded in that position. If you want to be a pro footballer, think like a footballer, eat like a footballer, drink like a footballer, act like a footballer, all this sort of stuff, you know? So between self-awareness and mindset, I really think are the two most powerful tools that we can use and to begin with. And look, there's a million other things in order that we need to do in order to harness our mind and harness the powers within our mind. But I think if people can start with just becoming more self-aware and having a more positive mindset, I think that's a good place to start. I don't know what you're thinking, but
That's literally it, man. That's literally it. Like I said, we don't want to bombard people with just positive information. I think there's plenty of stuff in that episode where people can just, pick apart. Like I said, it's such an easy thing to do. Is just not take your earphones out, which you're on your walk, or don't turn the telly on when you're eating. I think it really is, the whole aim of TUSIG is to get people to start. And if they want to start, you literally have to start at the very, 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 very start. And it's literally those tiny, tiny 1% steps that, you know, you can do that you may not believe are going to change. Like people might think, oh, it's only watching the telly while I'm eating, or it's only I'm listening to a podcast, or it's okay. You know what? Actually, they can listen to TOSIG
I know where you're
Talks
going
on
with
their
this.
walk if
Yeah.
they want it. No, no, don't listen to the podcast. Go for your walk without your earphones. But no, I think it's so important to start from the very start, and I think becoming aware and becoming aware of yourself and you know what makes you tick and what goes on inside your mind is so so important, and it is the first step in achieving anything. So yeah, I mean, I think we've probably covered so many topics there, but again, the key point of harnessing your mind is really is the catalyst to anything that you
Yeah.
want to achieve in your future.
No, 100% agree. 100%. And I think let's leave it there because we could go on for hours and just end up giving hours of waffle and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, episode five.
Guru advice, yeah.
Yeah, episode five, signed, sealed, delivered. Yeah, that was fun there. That was fun. We're gonna have to edit out a few parts when I got interrupted by an intruder there in the middle, so hopefully you guys don't hear that. But yeah, look, I'm gonna do the cliche YouTuber outro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share all your share it around. Share it to people that you might think might benefit from this. And yeah, look, please, 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 if at all, come to us, text us either on the TOSIG page or me individually. I know Darragh will be the same. Like, we want to hear from you, and the whole reason we're doing this is for people to start their own journeys. And if that means giving me a text or giving Darragh a text or whoever to be like, look, I want to kind of start this. Do you mind if I run this by you, even? Or I'm not feeling great at the minute. Like I'm here for any and all of the listeners, and that genuinely I'm here for everyone. So I want to help. I want to make a difference, and I know Darragh does too. So yeah, look, episode 5 done.
Mad. All right, we'll leave it there. So
See
chat
you
to you
later.
later. See you in episode 6.